for that.
All right, kids, welcome to another episode of Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode number 16, Major Division Trades, Extended Cousins Road Trip, and Division Free Agency Moves. How's it going?
Wow, it's going good. Oh, my God. What a week. What a week in sports. My goodness.
It has been crazy. And so joined, as always, by Uneducated Takes. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we had a week off because I've had enough time to cope about the Kirk Cousins extension and enough time to move off from that and be like, you know what? Okay, let's focus on what it means because guaranteed no trade clause. Might as well not think about it. I'm ready now. I'm ready. I got a whole vision on life that's improved. So I'm good.
And we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. And we are actually, waiting. Daniele, she's had some health issues. She will be back eventually as well. But we are excited to have Dale from Average Cheese join us in the Packers. How's it going?
Doing great. Thanks again for having me on. It's been a busy week for all of our teams.
It has lots to talk about. And we also are missing Gridiron Grubb. He is still kind of, doing his move, and he will be ready soon as well. But I'm sure there will be plenty of other moves to talk about. But lots to talk about tonight. And let's just kind of get in with the biggest news. We were going to go last week, and I thought the biggest news was going to be Khalil Mack. It's not. We'll get to that in a second. So really, I want to go with Dale. Davante Adams traded to the Raiders.
Yeah, real big kick. That was really something. When they signed it, the franchise tag with Davante Adams, when they put that on him, he didn't sign it. But when they put it on him, I thought, okay, we're going to get to something. I thought they would extend him and make that $20 million. He'd get more money, but it'd cost him less money. But I guess they just signed him to trade him, which is it sounded crazy, but now I think that might be for the best.
It was better than the alternative.
Well, right.
He really wanted to go to the Raiders. It sounded like, I mean, that was kind of his childhood team. He talked about all the players and jerseys he had. And he really wanted to play with Derek Carr too, right?
I don't know why he'd want to play with Derek Carr, but he did get to go back to the Bay Area and, go home. And I get that, right? You're going to make a ton of money wherever you play. You played with a great quarterback. You get to go home and play with Derek Carr. All right. Yeah. Congratulations. You're going to get what you get.
That division, man. That division now.
Well, right. He went from the North to the AFC West. Wow.
So was this just
so soft?
Was this just about the money or was it kind of, maybe did he feel disrespected by the Packers or what was this all about?
I think it's a myriad of things. I think, yes, he did feel a little bit of disrespect from the Packers. I don't know how much communication. You never know behind the scenes what you're getting, right? Did they communicate with Davante and say, hey, we're putting this franchise tag on you so that we can work out a deal? Were they too quiet last season? Maybe he wanted to get a deal done last year. Or maybe he just wanted to go play in Oakland. In Las Vegas. You know what I mean? That might have been a thing, playing with Derek Carr. I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I also think the Packers were a little bit balking on the highest paid receiver idea for a guy who's going to be 30 next year.
Might not be a terrible move. To be honest. Yeah.
I'm not sad about it, honestly. At first, I was like, oh, my God, there goes Davante Adams. And then you look and go, there's a lot of good wide receivers.
Yeah, you get
in
the 22 and the 53, too. Just don't mess it up. Don't draft any, centers or
right.
Or a quarterback. Don't draft a quarterback.
Linderbaum, come on down.
Oh my gosh, Packers Twitter
would
go ballistic.
Out of control. Yeah. They're not in a terrible position, right? If he wanted to leave anyway, it was going to be okay, not this year, but next year, and then you get nothing, right? And they're like, okay, let's just take what we can get now. I just don't think he was coalescing with the overall mood in the locker room. I don't think it didn't seem like he disliked people, but he's just honestly, this gets a little weird. Aaron's fine. I love catching balls from him. Obviously gonna be better than Derek Carr, but he's just probably over his stick. He's he's okay. I like him, but you know what? I'm gonna go to a different locker room, right? Because there's been a lot of drama kind of going back and forth, it seems like, and everyone has stayed in lockstep, which really surprised me. I really like how most of the players love Aaron Rodgers, even though he's so divisive, right? But I could see how the overall vibe would affect. Be like, they don't really want to pay me. I don't like it here that much anyway. Like, I'm going to go to Las Vegas.
And Aaron Rodgers had to know about this when he signed.
I hope so. That'd be so ridiculous. We would know if he didn't know. If he didn't know, he would have said something by now. Yeah,
for sure. He speaks his mind when he feels like he's not in the know. So he must have known for sure.
Yeah, he'd be on the Pat McAfee show for sure right now. If he didn't know. Yeah, so absolutely.
It's so interesting, and it's almost when I think about two different legacies, right? Davante, Adams, he's kind of been, forever linked with Rodgers because, Rodgers kind of brought him along, so to speak, and maybe made him what he was. And I almost wonder if it's kind of like Belichick and Brady thing. They part of it, wanted to separate. Well, maybe Rodgers didn't necessarily want it, but money wise, he knew it had to happen. But Davante Adams, wanted to kind of go away from Rodgers and kind of, do his own thing and kind of prove himself somewhere else, right?
I do think there's something to that, right? Yeah. Guys leave Green Bay and their careers go in the toilet a lot of times.
This is very true. Almost every time, in fact.
Almost every time.
Has it ever not happened? Can you name one receiver that has gotten better after they left Green Bay?
After leaving Rodgers in Green Bay, no.
No. Yeah, even far before that, I think there was one or two. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, James Jones he went to the Raiders too, didn't he?
And so did Nelson.
Jordy Nelson.
He sucked. Greg Jennings sucked for like 3 teams afterwards, including the Vikings. Yeah,
exactly. It's been very consistent that way. I think he does want to create a legacy. Like, I am this guy, regardless of who's throwing me the football. I think that's very valid. I think that's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you kind of look at the what they got, I mean, was that kind of enough for one of the best receivers in the game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a guy. If he didn't want to stay, you got a first and a second this year. Right now, in a very deep wide receiver draft, you got enough. Yeah. I mean, he's not a quarterback.
So more than the Vikings got for Diggs. More than the Vikings got for Diggs.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah, what did the Vikings?
A first and a fourth, like, it was great.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, but like, this is enough for sure for a 30-year-old wide receiver.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, look who else is getting traded for, like Amari Cooper for a 5th, like even like good players for 6. What was Robert Woods, your guy?
Robert Woods,
your guy got traded for a 6th-round pick. And those are all like, I bet Adam Thielen got offered maybe for a 5th or something like that someone would probably threw like maybe a 3rd, but it's just like, never mind. The old wide receiver market is not good. And this is a haul right here.
Although the news today with Tyreek, Hill, I mean that, and that's interesting. We talk about the draft as well. That might throw the draft off a little bit. I guess, the Chiefs would pick a little bit later, but I mean, they're going to be in the market for a wide receiver in the draft as well.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to get picked or late first, early second, and they're just going to, all of them, I feel like, are just going to go off the board. I haven't done like a deep dive into the class because I'm just not that guy. But it feels like from what I gather, it's a relatively deep but not top heavy class. So I think right there where all those picks are kind of acquired, which seems to be the mid-20s, like 22, 26, that's where they're all going to go, and in the early second.
So Dale, you talked about Packers Twitter. I mean, what was that like kind of when it happened and now kind of afterwards? Are people kind of a little bit kind of, sad now or just kind of, over it or what's the, kind of tenor of the conversation there now?
Anything that happens, Packer Twitter blows up immediately. It's always this knee-jerk negative reaction, no matter what it is. And then everybody comes back to earth. You start to, listen to people. You start to think, there are other sides to this. Oh, yes, we lost Davante Adams. Boom. That's the bombshell. But then what comes after it? You start looking at the picks. You start looking at the guys they can get. And people calm down. It happens every time, no matter who it is. And with Davante Adams being such a great player, it's going to be even more crazy.
So I was going to say, JJ here says 6 wide receivers will go in the first round, and that's that's possible, really. It really is.
Absolutely, yeah, it definitely could.
So here's what he says: Wilson, London, Williams, Olave, Burks, and Dotson, Jahan Dotson, all get picked in the first round. That's I mean, I haven't done a deep dive on all of these, but obviously Olave and Dotson, Wilson as well, solid picks. It's interesting how even in like fantasy drafts, I think sometimes you get a run on players and someone like, yeah, I don't know. We'll just, it's a knee jerk reaction that way too. Like, oh, I got to get someone, got to get the wide receiver. So there really could be a run there in the first round.
Yeah, I think Burks is a second round guy, but what you said, it's going to be 20 to whatever it is. I don't think there's a lot
60. Yeah.
Right. That's where those guys are all going to go.
Yeah. Well, speaking of knee-jerk reaction, another big trade within the division, Khalil Mack, and talk about knee-jerk within the Bears community as well. People are like mad. They're like, "What are you doing? This is all that you got for him," and second round pick in 2022 and a sixth round in 2023, and it's like well, you gave up this and this this for him, and this is all you get. For me, as a Bears fan, looking at his contract and looking at where the Bears are now, I was okay with it. He's, a fantastic player, but the Bears are not ready to compete yet. And to get some value in this draft, which that's what we really need. We need those picks, just to continue to rebuild the roster. And so I was okay with that, but a lot of the Bears, Twitter and radio callers were just up in arms about this move.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. He's a good name. I mean, he's a really good name. And like, okay, what happens when you buy a car, drive the heck out of it, and then try to bring it back to the dealership? Right? You get yeah. You got what you wanted out of Khalil Mack.
Yes.
He put you in a position to have a top defense. He put you in position immediately to be a playoff contender. Unfortunately, yeah. So you got what you wanted out of, and he's older and he's really expensive. That's And what were you gonna do? Khalil Mack's not on the next good Bears team.
No,
right, no. Like either way, right? What are you going to do? Yeah, and I can tell from experience as well, based on kind of Danielle Hunter not getting traded from the Vikings. For people where it's not certain if they're like a little bit old and they have had an off season or two, or if they get injured a little bit, people just aren't paying. GMs are not paying for it. I think if a team came in strong for Danielle Hunter with a first, he would have been traded. So I doubt, because I wouldn't offer a first for him myself, and these guys are smarter than me. So yeah, that's a fine draft pick, and you needed to move on. And honestly, a lot of the people from the Vikings fan base wish that they were handling like this. I'm not sure I'm quite there, but yeah, they're like, see, Ryan Poles knows how to tear it down.
Wow,
it's like what they're saying. Yeah, because he really is. He's tearing it down, and that's good. And if you want to lose, play Dakota Dozier, and then you can get a high draft pick next year. And
we'll get to that.
The guard doesn't make that much difference. No, but I think that's a great haul. That's a great haul.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fine anyway.
What were your thoughts, Dale?
It's a great point. It doesn't matter what you paid for Khalil Mack back in the day. You bought him for what you bought him for. What are you going to get today? And that's really what matters. You got rid of that contract too, which is a huge thing. I mean, getting rid of Khalil Mack's contract and bringing in a second round pick where you could maybe go out and get a guy, that will be around, like you said, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now when things are ready to go. Khalil Mack's going to be, I don't want to say 40. It's disrespectful, but he's going to be really old by the time the Bears are ready to contend. So get something now when you can.
Absolutely. And, he was injured. And so like, it's, yes, he's a name, and he is, someone that people have their jerseys, and all that. And, as a fan, I get it, but when you look at it from, you take a step back and say, okay, well, he's not going to be, he would not have been on the next team that would contend. I mean, but now you look at all of the money, over 120 million. It's crazy number in 2023 that they're going to have on the cap. I mean, obviously, that might change a little bit, but I like that they're giving themselves flexibility for the future, because right now we're not in win now mode.
I think he's doing it right. I think that's absolutely the right move.
Well, in kind of on some of those other moves, kind of moving into the Bears as well, and we can kind of go back to some of the Packers moves as well. But with that, some of the free agent moves they've done, Nick Morrow from the Raiders, I think that's a good pickup there. I was surprised at Al-Qadim Mohammed. I thought he might be picked up by another team. But the Bears have signed some good pieces. Ryan Poles is really starting to get roasted, though, for his choices on the offensive line. They thought that he would kind of make the splash move and, get that the lineman who went to the Dolphins.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, right? I mean, like, yes, like if you would have won that bidding war, it would have been fun, right? No one's like, oh shoot, like really good left tackle, but that's an aging player. Was it Armstead? I think it's Armstead.
Teron Armstead. Yep.
Yeah. It's an aging player again, going into the 30s. Like, it's not a bad thing to have for sure, but it's not something if you're doing what the clear plan seems to be. It's just not. They're signing like younger guys that need to prove something. Is what I'm seeing like on this list. I got a St. Brown who's okay. Like Byron Pringle, who's never really gotten a chance, and then Dakota Dozier, who has gotten enough chances and needs to give someone else a chance.
Yeah, and so we, offline ahead of time, we talked about Dakota Dozier, the former Vikings lineman who had an unfortunate play. Go ahead, you can talk about it. You can describe it.
Oh, I mean, I won't describe it. He sacked his own quarterback. He's tripped over himself.
He told me that. I didn't believe it, and I looked at it.
You can look it up. He has sacked. He's helped sack his own quarterback, and it was the right play. He saved his life. But yeah, I mean, it's a depth guard. I don't know how much I'm gonna roast him, but if he plays, watch out. That's all I'm saying. Bears fans, you'll learn. If he
watch
plays,
out.
watch out. Yeah.
Bears
Bears
fans
a backup. Yeah. No, yeah, Bears fans, watch out. Yeah, just like you'll see. Like I could go on and on and on about how bad the guards in general. He wasn't even the worst guard on the team that year, which is just. Wow. I think there was the two bottom ranked PFF guards. Drew Samio was the other one. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. But you folks will see if he gets play time. But other than that, these are like some prove it deals for these players. Not a lot of bets right on this list.
And I like that. I like that because, I think you really want to see what the, draft's going to be like, those players and the fits. And then even, maybe in the free agent class next year. I mean, they're really trying to, as a coaching staff and as a, organization trying to kind of get themselves back into a place, where we can actually win. And I like that they're, tearing it down. I mean, there are some Bears fans are just like, see, he doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, okay, well, you don't want to be shelling out all this money for a team that's not ready to make it pay off.
Yeah.
Put these guys on short deals, see what they could do. And if they can't play, you just keep drafting guys to take their place. I think it's the right move. Absolutely. And
accumulating capital with the trade. It's how I would go about it. It's very Madden-y. It's kind of it's very new agey, right? But it feels like the right move right now. It's the direction I kind of wish the Vikings would go, but we'll see.
Well, let's kind of, get into the Vikings then a little bit, some of their free agent moves. They stole another division player, Zadarius Smith from the Packers, and talk a little bit about some of those moves and how you're feeling about your boy, Sean Mannion.
Sean Mannion, just Kirk Cousins' personal assistant coach, as I think someone called him. It's fine. It's fine. Who cares? Kirk Cousins is durable. Give whatever he wants. I don't care. If Sean Mannion is what he wants, it's like bringing Cobb back for Rodgers. Like, who cares? Yeah, sure.
Make him happy.
Yeah. You can have like some Pringles. It's fine. Yeah, we have plenty. But some of the other ones. This is all kind of viewed in the context of extending Kirk Cousins, by the way. Which, if we don't do this is a bananas way to respond, right? So because the Vikings decided to extend Kirk Cousins, get his cap hit down, tack a little void year on there. So we'll be paying for him. There's actually a void year, an empty one. It's empty currently, but 2025, there's a void year on that contract. So guarantee we'll be playing Kirk Cousins $5 million to not play for us in 2025. But going from there, you're like, okay, we're fine. Twitter had its meltdown. It's funny because you mentioned how the fans react, Average Cheese. And it is exactly how the local media has been reacting in Minneapolis lately, right? They have been out of their minds. Oh my goodness, they cannot come to terms with the Vikings not doing what the Bears are right now, right? They're like, you should have tore it down, and I don't get it. And they like almost refuse to even try. You know what I mean? Like there's a path, and I'll explain it here in a little bit when we get into it. But it's funny because it's exactly how. Like they're acting like Twitter, and Twitter's trying to be like, guys, calm down. But like,
Wow.
Twitter is
know
the
what
voice
I mean?
of reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
that's
wild.
scary.
And even me, like I was like, you can listen to everything I have to say about Kirk Cousins on this podcast. Like, you know, you're not, this ain't no pro Kirk space. But just like, yo, like, okay, like it didn't happen the way you would have done it. Take a step back and try to take the whole picture in and see what the vision is. So we have Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who has had 2 stops in the NFL, right? And that's at San Francisco and at, Cleveland. So both of those places, the main driver of success was the trenches. Both of those places, the main driver of success. And he said it today at a press conference. He was like, this isn't a league where you need superstars. Now, a lot of people are like, you kind of do for a quarterback, but you don't need it. You don't need it to find success, right? So with that in mind, right, and like a vision for the future, it's like, hey, those teams didn't have good quarterbacks. And sure, Baker Mayfield really fell off a cliff this year. But if you got a guy with a pulse in there, like, and you have dominant trenches, just dominant, because both those teams are dominant on both sides of the ball. Right, you can find success in this league. San Francisco is in the NFC Championship 2 out of 3 years, right?
Yeah, with Jimmy Garoppolo,
a pretty bad quarterback, right? By that game standard, right? Not that he's like terrible and like he knows what he's doing, but yeah. And so you look at it and you're like, okay, we bring in a 26-year-old Harrison Phillips and lock him up for 3 years on a fine contract, right? Not too much a year. I think it's definitely less than $10 million a year. I think it's like 7 or something like that. Right, you bring in Jordan Hicks. We're paying Jordan Hicks like $3 million this year, and then $6 million against the cap next year. That's fine. He's older, right? But he can play. Johnny Munt, maybe he's fine. He was with the Rams. He had a good player too. Austin Slotman, desperation move. That guy's not playing. I hope not. He's a Dakota Dozier level player so far. I mean, he has less. He has more time to prove himself. He has a less lengthy track record of bad, but it's not been good so far. Jordan Berry, I love that re-signing. I love that we brought back both the kickers, because the special teams went from like worst in the NFL to one of the best ones in the NFL in one year between 2020 and 2021. Sean Mannion, that's fine. Whenever Kirk wants, it's his world. We're just living in it. Zadarius Smith is a lot of fun, and that's where the vision kind of hit me, where it's like, oh, okay. So you have Danielle Hunter, who you restructured to sign to Zadarius Smith. And right, everyone's freaking out about this, or like kind of the media is, right? Because it's like not a move for the future, but it's like not a bad move either, right? So we're going to play Zadarius Smith like $14 million against the cap. And if he returns to 2019, are you kidding me? That's like 2 top 5 S rushers, both making an average of like $12 to $14 against the cap, right? That's just like a good contract for the upside, right? That's a bet with like good upside. Right, we all see what Zadarius Smith can do. Yeah, right. So I'm okay with this.
So JJ has a question here: is Anthony Barr leaving the Vikings?
Yeah. They asked about it today at the press conference, and he was like, "Yeah, we're trying, but no, I don't think I don't see why you keep him if you sign Zadarius Smith. That's ridiculous." Though there is one reason that, for some reason, then this is one of Spielman's greatest crimes, was contracts like this. There's a $10 million dead cap void year for Anthony Barr this year. So the Vikings are going to be paying him $10 million to not play. So if they restructure him, it might actually be cheaper. But that's the only reason that I could do it, is that it might actually, it's like bundling discount. Like, it's actually cheaper to have more. But yeah. I don't think so though, to be honest.
I thought it was really interesting that the Packers chose Preston Smith over Zadarius Smith, because Zadarius Smith is a lightning player.
About that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very similar contract. They're both making about $14 million a year. Preston has another year on his contract. Yeah. If it's me, I'd rather have Zadarius Smith than Preston Smith. They are similar. The rub on Zadarius Smith is he doesn't play the run very well. I don't buy that. And I'm not that guy. I think that him and Preston are very similar players. Preston's a bigger player, but I think I would have rather had Zadarius Smith at that price. I
Yeah,
think that's
and
a great
Zadarius could
signing.
at least set an edge, right? Maybe he's not he's not going to get there inside and like eat some
Right.
double teams, but he can set an edge like compared like with the DE like commensurate with that level. Yeah, I thought that too because we talked about that, and I remember we were looking at before the Rodgers restructure, we were looking at the Packers salary cap, and we had I can't remember which Packers guest we had, quarterback Matt, I think it was quarterback Matt, and I was like, so both the Smiths are gone, right? And he's like, oh, I don't know, and we both said that you keep Zadarius and you get rid of Preston because he's just like such a larger impact player that has proven he can lead the league in pressures, 150 something, and I was like 105 in a year or something like that.
And he'll get in your ear hole too. He's a leader.
Yeah,
on that defense, and that's always important too. Yeah, it's very strange, but
yeah. So we look at now some of the free agent signings for the Packers. Now, who becomes that leader? I mean, Devondre Campbell, that was a big signing, right? Or who becomes that that piece there that's going to lead?
I don't know who that leader becomes. Devondre Campbell is a great player on the field. He leads by example, but he's not the guy getting in your ear hole. I don't see him as being that guy. Honestly, I don't know who it is. I mean, the biggest mouth on the team is Jair Alexander, but you can't really get in Kenny Clark's ear when you weigh 190 pounds. He's gonna be like, not so much.
And that's for the other team. Quarterbacks are for trash talking the other team. Of course, not for getting your own team wrapped up. Yeah.
No. So I don't know who that guy will be. Jerron Reed, I'm really excited about that. That's a really under the radar signing for the Packers.
Actually, yeah, I didn't know.
He plays a lot of snaps, and the Packers need some production out of that interior defensive line because they have not gotten it. I mean, Dean Lowry had a great year last year on Dean Lowry standards, but he's never going to be a great player, So that's of all the signings, that's the one I'm most excited about we've had a lot of big ones, but that's the under the radar signing for me. I love it.
ACS University here, I believe it's Ace says, he would rather have Z. So
same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Totally agree. But getting Rasul Douglas back and Devondre Campbell back, I was talking about it on our podcast last night. When you didn't use that $20 million for Davante Adams, you now got Rasul Douglas, Devondre Campbell, a first and a second for Davante Adams. When you look at it that way, when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, I'll take that all day long.
So
and as Rasul Douglas, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, Rasul Douglas though, like, does he really have it? I mean, because he kind of, he had a few good games. I mean, is he really going to be there for the long haul?
Well, both Devondre Campbell and Rasul Douglas had career years last year, right? If you look at their body of work over time, are they worth this money? It's really hard to say because Rasul Douglas was off a practice squad. You know what I mean? He was off the I don't want to cuss on your show, but you know what I mean? Like he came from nowhere. They took him from nowhere. Did he have an amazing year? Yeah. Absolutely. That guy works hard. I think the Packers have the best cornerback group in the NFL right now with Stokes, Alexander, and Rasul Douglas. I'm excited.
It's not a bad one. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess you pay the players that earn it for you. And so if you earn it on the field and it's like, all right, and you came up, from nowhere, like it makes sense to maybe give it a shot. The contract I can't find. It hasn't been worked out yet, I don't think.
I thought I saw something like an average of about $7 million a year, somewhere in there. How many
years was it? No?
I think it's a 3-year deal.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. And if he turns out good, then you have 2 years of a $7 million quarterback that's good. Like that's totally fine. Especially, absolutely.
So it's so interesting. The Bears almost had a similar deal with their, guy that came off the street, Thomas Graham Jr. And I mean, it's been talked about that, he's not gonna, be the guy. They've got the draft. They've got to get somebody. And so it's interesting how the Bears are approaching it as opposed to the Packers, how they're, kind of trusting that, Rasul Douglas is not just a flash in the pan.
Well, with Aaron Rodgers signing an extension, you have to go with the known right now, right? This is a short window, 3 years, whatever it's going to be. You go with the guys you've seen do it. You can draft and develop, but that's for the next quarterback. That's not for this, this regime. So,
Well, JJ had a question a little bit back, and I'm going to say one of the under radar signings for the Packers is my guy Pat O'Donnell from the Chicago Bears.
Can he hold? Because I'm with you on that, JJ. Like, I don't care if he can punt the ball. Can he hold? That's all I care about.
And you mean can he hold
the ball down?
get holding calls, right?
Yeah. Can he put the ball on the ground for our kicker? If he can do that, great sign.
He is going to be very much missed with the Bears. I mean, he's been a mainstay, and he's been. I mean, you can basically you don't really hear much about him, and that's a good thing. So yes, he's fantastic. You're gonna definitely have some improved, kicking game there with him. So
great.
Yeah.
That's that whole sequence is so important. Every single person to that sequence is almost exactly as important. Like the kicker is a little bit more important, right? You still got to knock it down. But yeah, if there's the Vikings have experienced this a lot, where there's just something off with the handoff, with the delivery of the ball to the place kicker. And it throws them off completely. It needs to be just like exactly how they want it. So if he can do that, it's important and harder than it looks. And so if he can do that, yeah, why not?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially with how bad special teams has been for the Packers, right?
Yeah, it was a rough year.
Can't be worse.
Nope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Well,
it's easy to improve.
Yeah, come off the bottom, right?
Well, speaking of kind of improving and coming off the bottom, we don't have our Lions guy here, but there's some free agent signings for the Lions. DJ Chark, that's kind of an interesting signing.
It's a great signing,
right? Alex Anzalone, and then Tim Boyle, friends with quarterback Matt. Signed back with them, Khalif Raymond and edge Charles Harris. Those are some of the names that I saw for them.
I like DJ Chark. I just don't know if he's worth $13 million. I mean, he's on a play now and see what you can do deal, but it's not my money. I mean, if he can play, he's all right. We'll take it. Pretty nice.
Yeah, they got the money. They do. They can do it. You can
JJ
afford to take chances like that.
One question for you, for Dean as well. Would you prefer Dean Lowry or Tyler Lancaster?
Ooh, we beat the crap out of Tyler Lancaster on our show. The problem with Dean Lowry is he costs 10 times as much as Tyler Lancaster. I honestly would have rather had Lancaster at a reduced cost because I didn't know what they're going to do with the cap. Lowry's a better player, but is he 10 times the player that Tyler Lancaster is? No, he isn't. I would have had both of them gone would have been actually my preference. Neither one.
And as a Bears fan, I haven't heard of either one of them, so it's probably a good thing.
Dean Lowry's a Northwestern guy. Actually, Lancaster is too. I think they're both Northwestern guys.
Oh wow!
That one's over my head. Yeah, it's the Big Ten, so I guess I should know. But oh god, why would you ever watch Gopher football?
Well, we're talking about Big Ten as well in free agency, and the Bears did lose former Penn State wide receiver Allen Robinson to the Rams, and this is almost addition by subtraction for the Bears. Great player. I think he'll probably reclaim some of his luster that he lost this past year. But it was time for him to move on. It'll be interesting to see how he does, with the Rams. I think he'll do well.
He earned it. He deserved this. He deserved to end up in a McVay system, just getting schemed wide open, having a pretty good quarterback huck him the ball. Yeah, he's earned this. That kid's been through hell back again. Not that like the Bears have been hell, but like it's hard for a receiver like that. He needed something different than the Bears were trying to do with him, essentially. And there was injury and he didn't perform. And like, just because the analytics love him doesn't mean he's amazing, right? He didn't always hold up his end of the bargain either.
Yeah, absolutely not. He definitely sulked quite a bit and, did it, kind of in an underhanded way, So I wish him all nothing but the best. It was time for him to move on. It was interesting because there was some talk that, once they had a new coaching staff that, he may, want to come back, especially when the wide receiver class or, free agents, started kind of falling into place. Maybe Allen Robinson, but it was time. He never had a good connection with Justin Fields. And, and so it's kind of better to have, a fresh start. And not that the Bears have really answered that question yet before the draft. I mean, Byron Pringle, I mean, he'll be an all right player, but he's no Allen Robinson. So hopefully they have something in the draft that they can really kind of develop and kind of have the same timeline as Justin Fields kind of going forward.
Yeah, you have to wait. You have to wait until the second round and try. But then, people draft good receivers the second round all the time. You think that's what they're going to go? You think they'll go wide receiver first?
They have to. I mean, they really do. I mean, unless the other thing is, with the the way the line, offensive line market is shaped out, maybe they go that way as well. But
there's enough holes in the team where you can take best player available. But in the second round, right, best player available is kind of a weird thing. Yeah. It's hard to know, right, what the best player available is once you get outside the freaks, right, a little bit. But yeah, no, there's enough holes, and you can even draft a defensive player too. You kind of culled the entire defensive line, right? There's not looking the same next year with no Akeem Hicks and no Mack. So yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I say they have to do offense as well, because with Chicago radio, we hear this all the time about you've got you've hired a defensive coach, and a lot of times if you hire a defensive coach, they can coach up the talent better, right? And so I mean, theoretically, so you almost need to start surrounding Justin Fields with the offensive talent, the young offensive talent, and it has to be kind of someone to spell Darnell Mooney, because he just is not. I mean, he had a 1,000-yard season. I mean, he had a great season this year, but he is not a number one receiver. And we're going to see it next year without Allen Robinson, without that threat. If we don't have someone, that's going to be a talented receiver along with him. So,
I think it's interesting that they are going to. I think they need to go offensive line, right? Will Fields ever have enough time to throw to the weapons that he has? That man is getting killed out there. And that really, if I was a Bears fan, that would make me very nervous. Okay, you put someone on the outside that can play, and I think Darnell Mooney is a great two, or a very good two. You put two guys out there, great, but if you can't get the ball out there, that guy if Fields gets hurt, my gosh.
A lot of that was, I would say, a lot of that was scheme as well. I mean, and that was on the coaching and whatnot.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
But what were we going to say, Cooper?
Yeah, it's almost like whichever your favorite prospect drops, or it's like, oh, we have this guy rated as a much higher offensive lineman than this guy is rated wide receiver. We have this guy much higher rated wide receiver than that offensive lineman. But yeah, other than that, yeah, you could take either in my book for sure.
Yeah, and when you kind of look at it now, I mean, the Bears are not. They're not going to contend this year. If they surprise, it really is on Fields and kind of the development of, the offense and what they surround him with. Hopefully, Cole Kmet could take a step up, but you're really looking at some of those offensive pieces step up. But what I wanted to talk about now, obviously this is before the draft and everything, but and I definitely want to get your take on this, Dale. So no Davante Adams. Is it still the Packers division?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, I know easy to say as a Packers fan, right, that it is still, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback. The Bears are rebuilding. The Lions are at a constant rebuild, so that, they're always at the bottom of the list. I don't see, even without Davante Adams, there's still the defensive pieces in place for Green Bay. I think they'll draft 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds this year, and I think they'll get someone that can play. I pined for Justin Jefferson a couple of years ago. If we get a guy on that level, then you have your one. Do you have Davante Adams? No. But it'll be interesting to see, now that Adams is gone, will Rodgers start throwing the ball to other guys? Will Amari Rodgers be a player in this offense? Tunyon just signed a contract. He's back. His guy Cobb, you're going to throw him the football. You wanted him here. You got him here. You're going to throw it to him once in a while. That'd be nice too. So I do think it's still Green Bay's division until Aaron Rodgers decides not to play in Green Bay.
Yeah, totally. It just is, because if there were any history of it going other than a different direction, when like we talked about earlier, when a 30-year-old wide receiver leaves the Packers, like it never has really been the thing that drove them off. Now, I mean, does it make them a little more vulnerable? Sure. Is it going to be a couple interesting games against the Vikings now? Sure. Because those receivers got to get open before that line gets home now. But other than that, I don't have any confidence in the Vikings, and I certainly wouldn't put any in the Bears or Lions either to get more wins overall in the season, right? I know I say it here every time we talk about it, like we can beat the Packers. That's not the issue. It's they beat the other people more, right? Right. And so they'll probably keep doing that.
So Detroit Lions Syndicate weighs in here and says, hey, not always. I've said this before. I like what the Lions have started to do, but it's always kind of a prove it. And where will they go at quarterback? That'll be really interesting to see what they do in the draft, if they go quarterback, whatever they do. But you don't trust it until you see it, right?
Right. Is Dan Campbell a coach that can sustain it? I like that guy.
Ooh,
I really think that he can build a program. But it takes more to then sustain that success. Once you start having success, then we'll see what kind of coach he is. It's a little bit tougher when there's expectations on you. And right now there's not.
Yeah, really. And when they jump up to 7 wins, right? And it's like, okay, here we go.
Do you make that playoff push 10? Then?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you get to 7 wins pretty easy in the NFL, but like 8, 9, 10 really start to get tough for the mediocre teams.
Would you look at our division this year? It's going to be, I wonder if it's going to be, obviously you got, Aaron Rodgers there, but I wonder if it's going to be kind of like almost the NFC least in past years, if it's going to be such an average, because you just don't know. We don't know what you have with Packers. I contend with the Vikings. I would, at this point, pick the Vikings to win the division. Here's why.
Because you have a terrible schedule, I'll tell you that. Sorry.
Okay, so I haven't seen the schedule, so maybe that could
No, I'm supporting you. Like we play bad teams. We play we play the Jets. We play the other bad New York team. We play the NFC East. We play the bad teams in the AFC East, right? Like the Vikings play some bad teams.
And I'm not saying that Vikings would do anything in the playoffs, right? Because you just don't know what you have with
you don't know,
Cousins.
maybe.
But I trust, you got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook if he stays healthy. Really, they have all the established talent. The Packers do have, the running back, with Dillon and Jones. Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
Secondary.
Yeah, I mean, so you have that, but there's a lot of question marks. Bears are, it's a lot of, question marks there, but, what is the, outside of the division, what are the teams going to do? And the Packers, I'm guessing, are going to have a tough schedule, right?
Right. You win the division, you go deeper in the playoffs. Yeah. You have a tougher schedule.
I think the Vikings make Terrio show is fire. It's actually ice, brah.
Nice. Well done on that. Well done.
No problem. Now someone else talk, because my own brilliance is.
Well, I was going to say too. So JJ did have a question. I think he had to head out, but he had a question about, even this will be an interesting game. The Packers going to London, it's such a it's a novelty, but that can really throw players off in their schedule, especially an older player like Rodgers too. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if we know who they're going to face yet. Do we?
We don't. No. Yep. Actually, we are going to go. Because Peter is one of our co-hosts. Peter lives in England. Mm-hmm. So cool. I told him I'm going to sleep on the dog bed. Yeah, the Average Cheesy had their first reunion in London. The Packers are the last team to play there. And who knows when they're going to go back. Really? Because, yes, they have not played, and they're the last team to play overseas, or, not in Mexico. None of those places they played off the grid. So, yes, we're going. I can't wait. It's going to be only live once.
There.
Yes, we are. For Peter's living room. That's what I told him. I'm like, dude, you better be ready.
You have to. Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Can't wait. It's in October, I think. It'll be. Usually the games are in October.
They're usually
London October, games are. So And they'll probably play the Jets or some shit team like that. And they're always
Jaguars for sure. It's always the Jaguars.
It's always them because no one wants to play. Exactly.
Well, there's no way they're going to do the Bears one because that's
division games never.
No. Well, I mean, and this will throw a little shade to the Lions. Does that really count as a division game?
Nah.
Yes.
Oh,
for the Vikings
name only.
Hey, look, I'll talk crap again, but Jared Goff daggered the Vikings twice, actually.
He did.
And we got bailed out by Kirk Cousins one time, but second time, yeah. So when I forget about that, when other stuff has happened in between Jared Goff daggering the Vikings twice, then I'll talk crap again.
How crazy of a bizarre world, like maybe in 5 years, just this flips and maybe the Lions are dominating division, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you look at, I mean, hopefully, as a Bears fan, I think Fields is the guy. And there's a lot of Packer fans who are like, no, he's not. And we don't know.
I think he is.
Yeah. And obviously, I think, Thomas was trolling me on Twitter as well, saying, Fields is the worst one. And hey, I'm just kind of in a, I can't be bothered right now. It's, everything is all good right now. And obviously the draft hasn't happened. But when you look at it, I mean, it's got to end eventually for Aaron Rodgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely going to end,
that
for
could be
Kirk
right about
Cousins
the time
too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
yeah,
who knows?
If you pick the quarterback position right, you're the front runner, right? So if the Lions decide to pick one, Justin Fields is there, right? Yeah. Cousins and Rodgers are going to walk out the door basically at the same time.
Please, yeah, for the love of God, will one of them walk out the door?
Kirk Cousins he's almost like that.
They love him
in a cheesy horror movie when the guy won't die,
No, and they love him, man. And there's a big conspiracy theory that ownership is just like pulling his like puppet stringing, sign Kirk Cousins, and it's like, yeah, maybe they had to say they probably like, hey, we want to get competitive. I think what happened was because Kwesi spoke a big game about breaking it down. Mm-hmm. I think he realized that the trade market was poor. Like, right, if you're like, yeah, we're going to trade Kirk Cousins, we're going to trade Danielle Hunter, and we're going to trade Adam Thielen. And it's like, all right, we'll give you like a third, a fifth, and another third. Like, and it's like, well, I mean, that's a lot of cap savings, but those guys are good. Like, those are all, like, you know what I mean? Like, those guys are really good. Adam Thielen's not bad. Adam Thielen took a pay cut. Sure, it's more guaranteed money down the road. That's going to hurt. But you're going to be paying Adam Thielen like $10 million against the cap, right? For a couple more years. Like, that is found money. Yes, that is free. That is free. That's like a rookie scale contract, right?
Here's my question too. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going.
You talk about wanting to just like tear down the Vikings, right? And you have I'd say probably a once in a generation talent like Justin Jefferson, right? He's right up there.
Great.
I mean,
he's not for the Vikings. It's every generation for us, apparently.
Well, yeah. I mean, so you have that talent, and I mean, how often now do you see free agents wanting to re-up with cold weather cities, and if you tear it down and all there is Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, I think, when he comes up for his, because he's still in his rookie deal, right?
Yeah. So he's extension eligible after next season. He's extension eligible. And the thing about re-signing rookie deals is, well, one, you can franchise tag them, but two, you just have to be good the year before. You only got to be good for 1 year.
Year's big.
Yeah. And so if he breaks records for 3 years and then they go to the NFC Championship game, right now we're talking. And yeah, as far as tearing it down goes, I kind of came to this thought recently, and it's running it back is oftentimes just tearing it down with more steps. Right. And so I think, Kwesi looked around and ownership wants him to be good. And he's like, there's a lot of bad contracts, but they're for pretty good players and I can't get a good return on them. So it's better value to kind of just let this run out a little bit. Yeah, we're going to push a little bit of money into 2023, 2024, but we're going to be pretty good and we're going to build this up. Right. And then when it's time, because they're like, this quarterback class, maybe they didn't like it. And I think, that's no one should really know one way or the other, but maybe they saw it. They're like, we don't love a guy and we have these good players. Like, let's run this out a little bit and see if we can build around them. And let's hope, because that's not what I would have done.
But that quarterback class, you look at Malik Willis, like, I don't know what conference Liberty plays in, but he didn't light that conference on fire.
No, and that's the thing is if you're not, and I thought this Josh Allen really screwed everything up because I was rock solid on Wyoming. Yeah, he wasn't even the best in the Mountain West, and like that's what I was like. This guy isn't even good in the Mountain West. Like, why are you even? But no, yeah, I think Toolsy is back, and when that pendulum between like refined and Toolsy swings, it usually swings too far. So maybe this will be the next couple of years where like people go a little too far on Toolsy and they go, oh, okay, we got to get a little polish, and then a Peyton Manning style guy comes back. And
It's so interesting. Malik Willis just had his pro day and was wowing people, and those things. Yeah, and those things always crack me up. But I did get a chance to talk to a guy at Fox, Charlotte, and he was at the combine, and he said, everyone he talked to, had the same kind of grades on Malik Willis and said he's just not ready yet. I mean, he's got the talent, and so no one could really kind of nail down what that meant. And I was asking him, is that kind of just a smokescreen? He said no, everyone pretty much had the same kind of grade. And so it's interesting, like he's got all the talent, and I mean, when you look at it, it'll be interesting to see. The teams that need a quarterback, they might, kind of be duking it out for him.
Someone's got to take him in the top 10. Someone does, right?
Yeah, because
on his tools. Yes.
Yeah. And there's needy, right? There's Atlanta down there, and there's Seattle down there. Like if he's at 12, the Vikings better take him. I don't care if Kirk's under contract. Take that swing. Are you kidding me? Who else? You're gonna get the third best cornerback? You know what I mean? You're gonna get the third best. If Davis is there, I really like him, but you're gonna get the third best defensive end, right? If two go in the top 10, or you can take a quarterback that the upside is your franchise is different now, right? You know what I mean? Like the payoff to take a potential franchise changing quarterback with a middle round with your own pick. You didn't have to trade anything for it. We have the number 12 pick and the highest upside quarterback. A quarterback has not come off the board yet, and a quarterback falls to you. I mean, come on. Like, I don't care who's under contract almost, especially Kirk Cousins. I mean, for the love of God, like, you have to see it.
Packers can't do it, though. Packers can't do it.
No, Packers probably can't.
I'll have a stroke.
Oh, that would be so incredible. Oh, my God. That'd be almost better.
Yeah.
He would probably play better anyway for some reason. He's a weird guy.
I don't know. I think you have a guy on the Vikings roster that is almost equivalent to Malik Willis and Kellen Mond.
No, Kellen Mond ain't got that cannon. He ain't got the cannon. He's okay.
I think they're very similar.
Ooh, interesting.
That would be devastating. Malik Willis, he's like I don't know. I think he's just got better arm and better mobility. Kellen Mond can run, but Malik Willis is like an extremely evasive human. And Kellen Mond can throw the football really well. He cannot throw it as high and far as I just saw Malik Willis throw it, though. I mean, and that's like I've only seen Kellen Mond playing pads. I didn't watch his pro day, right? So maybe if he's like out there in the shorts, like going to his best friend,
running around with nobody chasing him.
Yeah. Oh, a guy going like this in his face. Yeah.
The 5'7" white guy that was in front of him.
I was like, is that really the drill? Oh, yeah, it really simulates.
Who's this guy? At least hold the pad up high so you're sort of like at the same level.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who saw that. That's funny.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, and I don't know if we've ever had a lame duck backup quarterback like Jordan Love. I mean, that's got to be so awkward there, doesn't it?
Since Aaron Rodgers, anyway, almost.
Well, right, with half the talent. I don't know what they do with Jordan Love, though. Like the quarterback market, where would he go? If you are Jordan Love or his agent, you want to go somewhere where you can play, right? Do you go to Seattle and play? Maybe you could beat out Drew Lock there, right? Like you said, Atlanta. Like, where do you go? Do you go to Indianapolis and hope that Matt Ryan only plays another year? I don't know. There is nowhere for the Packers to trade Jordan Love to and get something in return. Like you're talking about before. I don't want to trade him for a fifth. Why?
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is.
I think it's a fourth round pick, but I thought it was a fourth round pick previous, but I'm with you. pick is sliding farther and farther down the road because there's nowhere to go. He has no value right now.
Yeah, they almost have
That's
to wait
so weird.
until
It's so weird. Like, does Jordan Love just play his entire first round rookie contract out and then become a free agent without
quotes?
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, because that's a
is.
possibility, right? Where he just walks in free agency after not doing anything as a first round. Like, usually they get a shot. You know what I mean? So rare to not get a shot and then be relegated and then sign like a backup deal. But if he just it's the backup the entire time as a first round draft pick.
Yeah,
because that's what he's
that
on.
Never
That's
happens.
For.
So you think Aaron Rodgers just like, see, there you go,
suck it, Jordan.
Right?
He shouldn't have drafted. He's like,
they
really
drafted you to motivate me. It's all he did.
Yeah.
We are an NFC North podcast, but ACS Universe asks, what is the best conference in the NFL? AFC West. It has to be, right?
No question.
Yeah.
I think the better question
I'm glad
is
we played
the NFC North the worst division in football right now? Is the NFC North the worst division in the NFL right now?
I don't
think
so. I think
bottom two maybe. NFC maybe, but NFC South also. No, it's got Tom Brady, I guess, but
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, AFC Dolphins improved. And
the Bills are in that conference. They're in that division.
Yeah. It probably NFC North probably is. I mean, but NFC East. I mean, you've got you think with Chase Young coming back, that'll kind of help the Commanders, which is really weird. But no one's scared of Carson Wentz. And I had a chance to interview a Eagles podcaster, and I mean, I think they take that division. So. Yeah, it probably is
possible. It's always the Cowboys to lose, isn't it?
Right. The Cowboys are always uber talented, and then
they just lose
down their leg.
Yeah, like every year. It's insane.
Every year.
Yeah. I'm not afraid of the Commanders. Like the Ron Rivera coached Carson Wentz quarterback to like Commanders. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. So I guess one last question then for you, Dale. If Aaron Rodgers in the next 2 years doesn't win a Super Bowl, will you regret them kind of running it back again with him?
That's a good question. I think the answer is no. He puts you in the best position to win that Super Bowl. Again, if you switch it around and Jordan Love is your quarterback, you're just a team. You're fighting with everybody else to maybe make the playoffs.
You're the worst team in the division, probably.
I mean, it's possible. There's enough pieces around him where you'd probably run the ball 85
That's true. The
times
defense
a
is
game.
really good. The secondary. Yeah. No, you're
secondary,
right.
and Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary can rush the quarterback, and Devondre Campbell is a player. But I think is it worth it? Yes, I still think it is.
See, and it's so interesting. I'm sure, kind of being as a Bears fan, we haven't gotten used to winning like the Packers and having that main quarterback. But when you kind of look at it, eventually it's got to end. And, I remember as a kid kind of going to sleepovers and trying to stay up as late as I could. And, because you're just so excited for the, all the fun video games, everything you're going to do. And then eventually you either fall asleep or, the night's going to end, eventually, Cinderella, eventually Rodgers is going to, retire, all of that. And so like, it's almost like, do you suck to try to get, because next year is going to be an amazing draft class, for quarterbacks, right?
Maybe.
I mean, that
would get one of the top ones. Yeah.
Because if you're one of the worst teams and you get a Bryce Young, I mean, that kind of changes your trajectory even further, potential, but I don't know.
Yeah, then you got a tank though. I don't think people don't like GMs and like people who run football organizations just really don't like to tank, and football players definitely don't like to tank because it's detrimental to their careers. Yeah. And like that's definitely the best. And once again, we had like a lot of really cool Packers guests on here before any of this went down. Right? We had like 3 or 4 or 5 really knowledgeable Packers guests, and to a T, they all said trade Aaron Rodgers. Every single one of them. But you can bet now because like the consolation prize is still Aaron Rodgers. So like, what's the difference?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You
like it's like,
lose
oh,
and
okay.
you still win.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to watch him, and like you get to have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL on your team. Like then you're like, oh, okay, well that's fine too. You know?
We had sorry.
No, go ahead, Dale.
We had a guy on our podcast or emailed me and said, would you, if the Packers were to get what the whole deal was with Russell Wilson, oh man, I'm stumbling on my words. The Russell Wilson deal, if that was the same deal with Aaron Rodgers, would you take it? Yes.
Oh yeah.
As much as I love Aaron Rodgers, and I just said what I said to you 5 seconds ago. If you get the deal that they got, the Seahawks got, I take that deal because then you're setting your franchise up for the next generation. If you hit that quarterback position right again next time,
they have that opportunity, right? Though,
right.
The Packers turned that deal down. It did like.
I don't know that deal ever happened. I don't know. I mean, there's rumors of that, right?
Possible? Yeah, right. Because if they offered it for Wilson, you have to offer it for Rodgers. Like you would obviously make the same moves for Rodgers, right?
But Rodgers is a little bit older, though, right? You know?
Right.
So, a little bit.
We debated that too.
Yeah.
Do you get the top 3 quarterback at 39, or do you take Russell Wilson, 39, who's top 10 at 33? I think
is it really
that piece?
That's more than I thought, to be honest. I didn't know Rodgers is 39. Actually, holy crap!
Yeah. So right, they're. I think it's the same deal, though. That being said, the 2-time MVP versus Russell Wilson, who's a very good quarterback. I think that's still the same deal. And yes, I would have done that deal too. As crazy as that is to say. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at he's talented. It'll be interesting to see though if he can do it in the playoffs. And now there's going to be no excuses, right?
Right. There's never been a good excuse.
Yeah, there's just no other chances.
Like you've had enough shots at this, buddy.
Yeah,
you take us to the playoffs every year. Yep. You wanted home field advantage, and we had it during COVID. That didn't count. Well, we had it again, and we didn't do it. So you don't. There's nothing left for you to say. It's just
besides, he needs to go out and cement his legacy. Honestly, because he's on the verge of slipping from like the top rung to like the one in between. You know
totally
what I mean?
Agree. If you got to win playoff games and Super Bowls.
If he lets them down 2 more years in a row, right, where it's like not his fault, but he also doesn't elevate, right? That's going to tarnish. That's going to tarnish him long term, especially compared to Brett Favre, who also I guess only won one, but he was just so much more likable.
He was.
Yeah. Why? I mean, why was
maybe?
That?
Because he's charming.
Country bumpkin.
He's charming.
Yeah. Like I play dumb, but I'm not. And,
do I like football?
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not? Anyway, I think that's a good place.
He just took his grandson to his first NBA, or he just went to an NBA game for the first time ever. Bucks the other I think last week, and was telling Giannis, you're pretty good. You're pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
Classic.
Good.
Yeah. So
were you, Brett. You were pretty good too.
Good. Yeah. All right, let's end it there. Huh?
Yeah. Well, we talked about a ton.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you joining us, Dale. Where can everyone find you again?
You can find us. We now have a new website, www.avgcheese.com. It's in its infancy. I don't know if I'd go there. It looks like a 5-year-old did it because
don't cash that check till Friday.
Yeah, and you can find us on Twitter at avgcheese as well.
Nice.
Thanks again.
That's been great. Thank you so much. This has been a really fun episode.
Absolutely. And we will definitely catch everyone next week again. Hopefully, eventually we'll have a full crew again, and hopefully we'll have some more NFC North news. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.